Crowdsourcing.org. This is my co-editor, Anton, and today we're here with Carl Esposti, founder and CEO of Crowdsourcing.org and Massolution. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Massolution NYC 2013 Crowd Power Business Conference. So, Carl, if you could you just introduce us briefly to the conference? What's it all about?
Hi, Eric. Hi, Anton. I didn't know it was Red Shirt Day today. You should have let me know. You guys always look so much cooler and more trendy than I do, so I'm sorry. Plus the album, which is obviously one of you produced that at some point in the background. But thanks for chatting today. So we're a week away now from our conference in New York, enterprise crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, and it's how crowd-powered business is changing the rules for the enterprise. So we've been working up to this for some time. There's been some great conferences in the industry over a number of years, but we wanted to approach this a little differently. We wanted to put crowdsourcing in the context of how it impacts enterprise strategies around growth, customers, innovation, and sales. So we have a really great lineup. There's a half-day conference workshop on the 18th, just in the afternoon, and that's for buyers of crowdsourcing or people thinking about crowdsourcing that want to get deep into the areas such as microtasks, the market landscape, use cases, best practices. And then there's a really packed full-day agenda for the 19th, a terrific lineup of speakers, TED Talk-style presentations, about 18 presentations back-to-back. Some of the biggest companies are attending: Xerox, Walmart, eBay, LinkedIn. There's a whole rafter of top-name companies, and then some very traditional companies, people from the New York Stock Exchange, some big insurance companies, some big banks, ABN AMRO coming over. Got a keynote from Lego. So it should be a really interesting day for anybody either deep into crowdsourcing and crowdfunding or that wants a really good exposure to it.
And how could people come to the conference or view the conference? So
we have our website. You can get there from Crowdsourcing.org and hit a banner on the top. You can go to Massolution.com, or you can go straight to events.massolution.com, and there's a full agenda there, speaker lineup, sponsor, and you can purchase your tickets there. Mm-hmm. And the event is at the in Midtown, New York. It's at the W Hotel.
Mm-hmm. But if you can't make it to New York, we'll be hosting a live stream.
Yeah, so in the next 24 hours or so, people will be able to subscribe to the live stream. There's a lot of people, obviously, that would like to attend and are very interested in the content, but they can't make the journey. So I think we'll be publishing a link where you can go and you can subscribe and you can watch it live. And I think that you'll be able to dip in to watch a couple of key sessions, or you can hang out for the whole conference. And that's just for the 19th.
Excellent. Well, Eric and I are both in New York, so we'll definitely be there. But
have you bought your tickets?
Definitely.
I'll give you a code, okay?
All right,
thanks.
Hopefully we'll be wearing something other than these red shirts.
Well, last time I invited you to a conference, Eric, you wore a T-shirt.
Oh my goodness.
You wore pumps and they didn't let you in, so dress properly this time.
Well, you mentioned there that you wanted to focus, do something different and focus more on the enterprise. Why is that the main focus of Massolution NYC 2013?
Well, the market's been growing, and it's been very much a sort of a grassroots build-up. So, small enterprises, small businesses have realized that they can get access to these resources, and they can start competing in a different way with big companies and things. With crowdfunding, everybody's realized that there are many new businesses starting, entrepreneurs getting funded. But we've always been on the mission to help drive sort of adoption within the enterprise, and in order for it to really scale, we think in addition to the aggregation of all of these current providers and participants, as soon as the big enterprises start using this in a much larger way, then I think it will validate the model, and I think the scale will be much quicker. And that scale is going to have a great impact in terms of investment into the marketplace, the talent that's joining, the enterprises are demanding, so they're going to be pushing the thinking forward and driving standards in terms of new technologies and better workforces, more knowledge about the workforce. So for us, it's an area that we've always focused on. This is our chance beyond our research and our advisory work and our publishing to start communicating to these large enterprises that this is a game-changing strategy and that they need to be acting on it.
So what can these large enterprises learn from startups and smaller, medium-sized enterprises about working with the crowd? And,
well,
how is crowdsourcing for a large enterprise different than it is for a startup, for example?
Well, I think there's a couple of things they can learn. I mean, I think the first thing is, the days where enterprises had an advantage from a resourcing, a sourcing point of view over smaller businesses has changed somewhat. These large companies obviously have scale. They can do these big outsourcing deals. They can put very significant relationships in place with big providers. And the smaller players were kept out of that game. So it was harder for them to get access to these resources and to be as nimble and as agile as they needed to be. So I think the first thing is, from a competitive standpoint, the large organizations, the large enterprises, just need to realize that crowdsourcing really is a game changer for the smaller companies as well, allowing them to get access to the skills as and when and where they need it. I mean, who would have thought, you look at models such as iStock Photo, changing, restructuring the sort of the stock image market and challenging Getty. You look at Instagram with Kodak. A lot of this innovation and a lot of this disruption comes from these startups and small businesses. So I think competition is the first thing. Be aware of where your competition is. It may not be who you thought it was in the past. That's the first thing. The second thing is, to drive an enterprise innovation strategy, you've got to be looking at where the innovation is coming from. So by studying and understanding these smaller startup businesses that are working with crowd, you get very early sight of where this innovation is coming. How is crowd being used? How is crowd being used to connect and develop brand and products? Is it possible for a smaller company to use crowdsourcing in order to send out field agents to do data collection and research that wasn't possible before? So I think a lot of the ideas for where enterprises should be innovating come from understanding the startup community, specifically around the crowdsourcing and crowdfunding spaces.
Great. So we've been talking a lot about the potentials of crowdfunding, and I'm sure that's what the conference is going to focus a lot on. Sort of looking into the future and how enterprises can use this. But what are some key developments that you've seen over the last couple of years that make you really optimistic about where crowdsourcing is going, and for you really have helped to push the industry forward?
Well, I think one point to note is we did some research in 2012 looking at 2011 data on how much investment was coming into the crowd business model space, and at that time we found about $300 million worth of revenue. It wasn't as extensive as the research that we did last year to follow it up, but the research that we did earlier this year, looking at 2012 numbers, we identified $1.3 billion worth of investment. That was about $130 million that came into crowdfunding, which already has been surpassed in 2013, and then about $1.2 billion that came into the crowdsourcing space around creativity, knowledge distribution, knowledge discovery, open innovation, and some of the sort of the cloud labor type of platforms. So I think the first indicator is there's a tremendous amount of investment coming in. So obviously the investment community is seeing this as a really important space. I think another thing that's really interesting is crowdsourcing was very much a sort of a managed service type of offering. You would provide a company with data, they would process it pretty well in a black box, and they'd provide you back the output. Enterprises don't work like that. I mean, enterprises need to develop IP around their own workflows. There's the IP or the secret sauce isn't so much in the technology, although obviously some of the technologies that automate a lot of the adjudication and the quality control, therefore, are obviously differentiated. But a lot of the IP comes from companies setting up their own specific work processes, and you can only do that if you can get access to the architecture. So we're seeing new market entrants that are licensing the software on that type of basis, either as a SaaS model or an enterprise type of model. And we're seeing some of the managed service crowdsourcing providers now starting to provide access to their proprietary technology as well. I think another thing is the internationalization of the market. So obviously there's been, a lot of the lead has come from the US domestic market, but we're now starting to see some international, some governments looking at crowdsourcing and crowdfunding at a national level. Through our advisory work at Massolution, we're engaged currently developing a crowdfunding strategy for Mexico to get funding to small businesses. We're just about to start working in Asia on developing a national crowdsourcing strategy for Malaysia. Very, very interesting move. Malaysia looking at this as a new strategic play in terms of developing or creating jobs for workers online and entering the international marketplace. So I think those moves are very significant as well.
So before you were founder and CEO of Crowdsourcing and Massolution, you were a kind of big player in the outsourcing world. So you know very well how the two models differ. So what are some of the key benefits of crowdsourcing over outsourcing, and some of the differences?
So I think the first thing to think about is I don't see them as competitive models. I see crowdsourcing as a model that sits alongside outsourcing. I mean, first of all, there are tasks that can be performed, there is work that can be performed with crowdsourcing that just can't be outsourced. It's not viable because of the scale, it's not viable because of the speed at which you have to mobilize or deploy the services, or the speed at which you have to turn the demand off once you fulfill the work that you were looking to fulfill. Outsourcing basically is moving work to an entity. You pick an entity and you rely on that entity to have the resources and skills and the interest in making sure the best workers perform the work for you. And that has its place. With crowdsourcing, you're outsourcing work at a task level to an individual. You're finding the best worker for any given set of circumstances. It might be availability, it might be qualifications, it might be cost. So I think outsourcing in itself, I mean, crowdsourcing allows you to go in and improve certain outsourced processes. It allows you to go into existing enterprise processes or outsourcing agreements and find further ways to integrate crowdsourcing into that model to further optimize it, speed it up, make it cheaper, do it more quickly. There are a whole bunch of things that just can't be done through outsourcing, so I see that as an adjunctive opportunity to use crowdsourcing in different ways as basically part of an overall enterprise strategy.
Great. So we're getting close to wrapping up here, but you know, looking towards the conference in the week, what are some of the presentations and speakers that you're looking forward to, and what are you most excited to learn from the people presenting at the conference?
Well, we have, I mentioned earlier, so the conference is organized around four themes. How does crowd affect innovation? So we have Lego coming over from Denmark talking about the work they've done with their QSO platform, an incredibly innovative company that has reinvented itself, moved into the digital world, and has maintained a fan base from, you know, the 40s, 50s. I think 1932 the company was formed. So we're very excited about that presentation. We have great presentations in that section from the likes of Tongle, doing interesting work in terms of using their platform for research for people like State Farm Insurance. It's not just about the creation of creative content. We have Chaotix talking about use cases with American Airlines and Omni Hotels. We have Topcoder, one of the earliest innovators, founded in 2001. They're opening their presentation morning session talking about why they move so early, how the market has changed, and how they've morphed their model from beyond that just of a sort of a competition-based model for algorithms and things. We have a second section which is all around growth. So this is how different companies are using crowdsourcing in order to create more agility and speed and flexibility within their organizations. We have a section on enterprise crowdfunding. So although crowdfunding is thought of as just about capital, there's a lot of very big enterprises using this to validate market products, to engage with customers. And then we have a fourth session which is around using the crowd to deliver better services with customers, or to use customers as part of your development and engagement process. So there's some really, really great content. I've been monitoring how people have been reacting to crowdsourcing for 5 years now. So one thing that's really interesting for me is to see the level of engagement between the audience and the people that have been operating in this more and more, and to look to see how many people make good connections and then walk away with agreements and actions to actually sort of follow up and to sort of initiate some of these things. So so those are some of the things. I mean, as I said, there's some great speakers from some of the top companies, as well as a lot of companies that are, most people would have thought were new to the crowdsourcing and crowdfunding.
Yeah, it sounds like a really great lineup. Should be an exciting couple of days. Do you have any last thoughts or comments before we wrap up?
Only that, I hope that for those that haven't been able to attend, I mean, we're pretty near capacity on the event, and there are some spaces. I prefer to have more people in the room and get people to squeeze up a little bit. So, tickets are still available. Like to see as many people there as we can get. You mentioned earlier the live stream, so we'll be announcing that, I think, later today. That live stream is going to be priced at a point that allows students, researchers, people overseas that can't travel, people in the US that haven't been able to make it to New York. So hopefully that will allow the attendees to reach a bigger audience, or the presenters to reach a bigger audience, and for a lot more people to experience the benefit of the day. So we look forward to people subscribing to that, and hopefully get a good community online participating.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and talking about Massolution NYC 2013, and we'll see you in a week here in New York.
Okay, all right. I look forward to it. Make it all the best, guys.
Yep.
See ya. Bye.